This masterclass room here today has been designed with community at heart. We have amazing sessions, all lined up because they all answer pressing issues that have been discussed in the community throughout the year. So, first up, we have Nicolas. Nicolas, take it off. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Denicio. Welcome, everyone. So this topic of the first masterclass session of the first workshop is the governance hot seat, decide Cardano's future. And now for a quick introduction. My name is Nicolas Cerny. I'm the governance lead at the Cardano Foundation. I'm also part of the ACE Alliance. I'm part of the Constitutional Committee and also part of the Civics Committee, part of the Budget Committee, a lot of committees. And I have two amazing friends here with me. So Adam, please.
Hey, my name's Adam Rush. I am on the board of directors for Intersect MBO, also a member of the ACE Alliance with Nico. And for my day job, I teach information sciences at the University of Illinois.
Hi, I'm Mike Hornan from Able Vision Network. I'm also a CC member and a stake pool operator as well. And as you may know, I really love governance in general, and I like to teach about that. So that's why I'm here.
Good. So before we start with the scenario and actually the let's say role play in a way, I want to go over the governance basics. I know some of you are governance experts, and for you that's maybe a bit redundant, but nevertheless, I think it's important to sometimes refresh our memories. So if we think about governance, one of the most important things is to understand what it's even for. Governance basically means that we on Cardano can decide everything. As ADA holders, we can decide about protocol updates, we can vote on parameter changes, and we decide how the Cardano treasury is allocated. And of course, there's more. So we'll dive into that in a bit. One of the most special things about our governance model is the tripartite model that we have. So we have the delegated representatives, the DREPs, the stake pool operators, SPOs, that we all know and love, and then the Constitutional Committee. So the most important thing here is just to understand how these different groups govern and what is their role and responsibility. So the DREPs, they represent ADA holders. They are the ADA holders who have decided to step up and to be part of governance. So if you are an ADA holder, the only thing you require to participate in governance is you need to deposit 500 ADA, register, and then you can be a Cardano DREP and vote on all the different governance actions. The voting power of DREPs is one Lovelace, one vote. So it's a token-weighted model. And yeah, really any ADA holder, as long as you have the 500 ADA deposit, can register. Next to them, the two other roles, the first one is, of course, the SPOs. They have been around for a very long time. The validators who keep the network running. They also play a part in this governance structure that we have. And of course, their main responsibility is to keep the network running, but they also are part of this whole governance discussions and governance model that we have. And their voting power is also proportional to the amount of stake. So if a stake pool has 50 million ADA stakes to them or 2 million, that is their voting power. And then we have a very special third role, which is the Constitutional Committee, which sort of also tells you another very important thing about governance, which is that we have a Cardano constitution. We have a rule book. We have a shared vision, a shared rule of principles that tells us how the governance model works and also what we as a Cardano ecosystem stand for. And their role as the CC is to make sure that all the governance actions on Cardano adhere to the Cardano constitution. So they don't have a stake-weighted model. For them, it's one member, one vote. So these are the three roles. It's very important to understand that for every governance action on Cardano, you must have at least two of the three participate. So there's never the possibility that just one role alone, one body alone makes a decision. It always has to be either two or sometimes even three. Why is that? It's a check and balance, right? So that you make sure that the DREPs cannot just vote something through without the constitutional committee looking at that. And in some cases, even the SPOs like Mike also participate. All right, and then we already talked about that a bit, but we have how many governance action types do we actually have? What is that? So on Cardano, we have 7 specific governance action types, and they're all listed here. Most important one, I mean, actually they're all important, but let's just go through them really quickly. I think the ones that I really want to highlight is the treasury withdrawal, because that's also the scenario that we're gonna go through. So the treasury withdrawal, what that does, it governs the Cardano treasury. So anybody on Cardano can submit a governance action. The only thing that you require for that is 100,000 ADA for the deposit. I mean, only it's a lot, right? But that ensures that we have some sort of barrier, that we don't get flooded by all of these governance actions.
It's a spam prevention measure.
And besides that, who is voting on it? So here on the 3rd column, you can see that it's, as I said, always 2 out of the 3, and in some cases, all 3. So the first governance action type is the motion of no confidence. What that does is, in a case where the Constitutional Committee is sort of acting against, or basically where the DREPs and stake pool operators believe the Constitutional Committee is not adhering to the Constitution. This is a radical move whereby if the motion of no confidence gets enacted, the Constitutional Committee is removed. And we enter a state of confidence. And Mike, maybe you can share a bit about how this state of no confidence works?
Yes, absolutely. So when you trigger a motion of no confidence, the entirety, as Nicolas said, the entirety of the Constitutional Committee is going to be removed, but also the threshold to ratify an update committee will be slightly lower. So as it is right now, it's at 67%. And for DREPs, it's going to be at 60% if that motion of no confidence ever get enacted. So as Nicolas mentioned, the motion of no confidence has to be voted by SPOs and DREPs.
And any ADA holder can submit a governance action for a motion of no confidence, but then it will take the required number of DREPs and SPOs to carry it out.
Exactly. It's the permissionless nature of our governance model, where you as an ADA holder, as long as you have this 100,000 ADA for your deposit, you can submit all of these governance actions. So whether it's a new constitution, right? And we saw that someone, not completely alone, but Yuta, a DREP from Japan, he has drafted a constitution with input from the community, and he then submitted that now already for 2 times, and he's going to do it a 3rd time very soon, according to his X profile. So this is, on one hand, right, the sort of the curse and a blessing, because as DREPs, and I know some of you are DREPs or constitutional committee members, you never really know how much workload is coming your way, right? You cannot really sort of predict if you're submitting a treasury withdrawal or Thomas over there is submitting a parameter change. Right? That's the difficult thing.
And we really thought about trying to find a fair balance to this system when we came up with it. 100,000 ADA is a significant barrier to putting it on chain, and it is, since it's locked up for 6 epochs, that's a significant loss of staking rewards that you will not receive while it's on deposit. Now, of course, you do receive it back. But because Cardano is a meritocracy, in addition to a proof-of-stake system, there's no reason why, if you don't have the funds yourself, you could write the transaction, you could have it ready for someone, and then you could find a sponsor who's willing to pay that ADA for you, and you could ask them to submit that transaction on your behalf, and they would receive the funds back after that happens. So you could have it programmed and have it that ready and work with somebody who has the funds instead.
And just to continue with the different governance action types, one of the most important things to understand is also that for future hard forks, and we saw that already with the last Diplomin hard fork, you also now have to submit a governance action next to the new node version that is being released to actually transition from the major protocol level or minor protocol level. And again, Mike, maybe you could share a bit about that.
Yes, absolutely. So the hard fork initiation is something that used to be done by the 7 Genesis keys that are not now, that are, as it is right now, invalid, right? So the community would have to decide on this trigger, that I like to call it. So if there's a new node update, and if the SPOs agreed to update their node, and we have enough stake pool operators who did the upgrade, then we can trigger the hard fork through a governance action, and the community altogether can decide when exactly it's going to occur by voting on these governance actions. And as soon as it's ratified and enacted, it happens on chain automatically.
Thank you. Yeah, and then one very relevant governance action, of course, also is the update committee. What that means is updating the constitutional committee or the threshold, the approval threshold of that constitutional committee. And here, right, so in a case where we assume that not the entire constitutional committee is corrupt or was corrupted, you can also just remove one member or 2 or 3 or whatever amount.
The update committee action can have multiple steps to it. So you could have a turnover where you could say 3 people are being removed and 3 people are being added. And so you could have something like that. Or you could have, in the case that we just had, we had a complete turnover of the Constitutional Committee a few months ago. And so we said, here are 7 new members of the Constitutional Committee. For 4 of them, they have terms of 1 year. 3 of them have terms of 2 years. And so we list the appropriate epoch that their terms will end. But each of the members that are being specified have, a separate line in that action.
And then another very important governance action is the protocol parameter changes. So in case, and it might happen, right, that you want to change a protocol parameter, let's say Pluto's cost model needs to be updated, or the K parameter, or the min pool fee, that has to happen also through this governance action type. And here we see the protocol parameter change in some cases requires all 3 governance bodies to vote. And I think, Mike, that's because of the security critical parameters.
So every protocol parameters that has been determined as critical for security also involve the SPO's threshold to be met. So in those special cases, you would need 3 governance bodies threshold to be met or crossed in order to ratify this governance action.
Thank you. And then last but not least, as sort of special governance action types, you can see here, right, we have 7 in total. Out of those 7, 6 of them have an on-chain effect. What does that mean? So if they get approved, they are officially being ratified on-chain, and then something happens, right? In the case of motion of no confidence, the Constitutional Committee is removed and the governance state transitions into a state of no confidence. Update committee, we update the Constitutional Committee, new constitution, well, very self-explicit, and hard fork protocol parameter changes, treasury withdrawals as well. But then the 7th governance action type, that's a special one. That's the info governance action type. And I think, Adam, you were involved with actually thinking about that in one of the first workshops.
Yeah, so it's the info action is a special case because it was originally designed as, what if we just want to poll the Cardano community? We want to know how ADA holders feel about things. Let's include a governance action that the way it's written on chain is that it will never resolve, because it will just, no matter how many votes you get, you'll never meet the threshold for an info action to quote unquote pass for something to happen on chain. So it could be that you just ask people, for instance, as Cardano Foundation has done, we would like to pursue this business venture of obtaining the .cardano and .ada domains. Do we have the support of the ADA holders to do this? Excellent use of the info action so that the Cardano Foundation can go to ICANN and show that they have community support in their application. But then it also became kind of a catch-all for other things that we needed to do with governance that we did not have specific governance actions for, that we didn't have time to build into the protocol. So things like the net change limit. We have this concept that only a certain amount of ADA can be spent from the treasury within a given time frame. Think of it as your yearly budget. So in our constitution, we wrote requirements that there must be a net change limit before you can go spending money. And so when you set the net change limit, you do it through an info action, because that is the available type of action we have that can handle a question to the community. And now when we have that come back from the community, when we have that those 6 epochs evolve and we have that final total, that will be forever on chain as a record of what the DREPs and what the SPOs and what the CC members don't really vote on that one in particular, think about what the net change limit should be. And then the Constitutional Committee, when they go to look at future budgets and future treasury withdrawals, will look back on that and say, oh yes, I see what the net change limit is. I know that we are within this time period. So then we start adding in the human element, the human machine part of this protocol for that. And budget info actions are a similar mechanism. It's a info action that helps to set the budget that treasury withdrawal governance actions will later be judged against by the Constitutional Committee.
Yeah, exactly. And what Adam also mentioned with the budget info actions. So in order for a treasury withdrawal to be considered valid, or let's say constitutionally sound, there has to be an approved budget before. So while I said anyone can submit a treasury withdrawal at all times, that's true, but the Constitutional Committee needs to verify whether there has been an approved budget that treasury withdrawal is tied to. So in case...
Yeah, and I was just going to say, and that is an artifact of the current Constitution. If somebody were to submit a new Constitution that removed the requirements for a budget info action, then that would no longer be something that the Constitutional Committee looked at.
Exactly. All right. And now just an illustration on how this governance action lifecycle works. So let's take this example of the treasury withdrawal. The governance action is submitted, and once it's submitted, it can be active for full 6 epochs. And during that time, right, people can vote. The DREPs vote, the Constitutional Committee can vote. And there are certain thresholds on how these different governance actions and what kind of thresholds they need to meet to be ratified. So in our example, the treasury withdrawal is submitted. Now let's go through the happy path maybe first. It's super popular. There's a budget that was approved with 75% approval. Everyone's aligned. Utah is happy. We are happy. Emorgo is happy. So great, right? So we are quickly moving ahead, and the proposal for treasury withdrawal meets the 67% threshold, even quicker than 6 epochs, which is 30 days. Let's put it like that. So 30 days. It meets the threshold after 15 days. Great. Okay, now we wait on the Constitutional Committee. And yes, please give them some grace, because they need to actually review everything. They need to review all the different details, the reference links, make sure that that the treasury withdrawal aligns with the budget. So they may, it's a lot of due diligence, and so they take some time, but they also ratify it rather quickly. And now I think what's important to understand, when is the ledger actually verifying and checking when a governance action is, if it passed the threshold or if it didn't. And here, Mike, maybe you could share with us when that happens.
Yeah, I can try to simplify it. So it happens during the epoch boundary. So at the epoch boundary, the ledger will watch everyone's vote and their respective voting power for DREPs, and also the votes from the CC. And if they both meet their thresholds, it will be ratified. And then after that, it would be enacted.
So we assume that, right, everything has been approved. On the epoch boundary, both the Constitutional Committee and the DREP threshold have been met. And then the governance action is ratified. That doesn't mean that the payouts immediately happen. So the funds do not immediately flow out from the treasury, but it's at the next epoch boundary where the funds actually then move from the treasury to the specified stake credential. All right, and now I think we also need to talk about the not so happy path, the unhappy path. And in that case, right, the proposers, didn't do a good job socializing their proposal. Maybe there are some issues with the constitutionality. So what happens is, if the proposal doesn't or isn't able to meet the required thresholds within the governance action lifetime, the governance action expires. So it just, what happens then is that the deposit, the 100,000 ADA, will then get returned. And
I would note that all of the required members of governance bodies, I should say, have to meet the thresholds at the same time. So, for instance, if within 15 days the DREPs all decide that they want to approve it and it looks good, but the CC, the Constitutional Committee, has not yet approved it yet, that's fine. But then if all of a sudden Murasaki realizes, oh wait, this is a bad idea, Emergo votes against it, and it drops back below the level that DREPs approve it of, but then the CC decides it is constitutional, now they have a problem that they haven't met the other way. So even if DREPs have it once, it passes the epoch boundary, but CC hasn't approved it, the DREP vote can change. The DREP vote can go back down because DREPs can change their mind and vote again and vote opposite of what they did before. Same with CC members, Constitutional Committee members, same with SPOs if they are. So that, it has to meet all of the required governance bodies at the same time, or else it expires. And then this one right here, if you want me to go on, if there would be like a motion of no confidence that gets enacted, all of the other actions on chain would get dropped. So that's the other not so happy scenario, that there can be multiple actions on chain at the same time. You can even have multiple ratified. But if something that is, no, not ratified. No, I'm sorry. You explain that part. Sorry. You have to take turns. You have to go in the right order.
Yeah, I need to do a little preamble on that. We did some consistent testing, and there is absolutely no way to stop the enactment. Okay, I thought you were saying after ratification. Okay, well, I'll just phrase it real quick. Once a governance action is ratified, it is going to be enacted, and we tried every possible way to see if we could stop the enactment by doing all sorts of things. Motion of no confidence, lowering the control committee numbers, and even we tried everything, and there's no way to stop it.
Right, but if there are a bunch of treasury withdrawals, governance actions on chain, when a motion, but they have not yet been approved yet, when a motion of no confidence gets enacted, they all get dropped, and they must be resubmitted in order to be considered again once a new constitutional committee is brought back into place.
No, actually, they stay on chain until expiration. No, yeah, they don't get dropped. Okay, this is something else.
Okay, well, I've got that wrong.
Maybe I can explain it real quick.
Yeah, please.
A motion of no confidence or a state of no confidence is never going to hold anyone from submitting a governance action. It's just going to sit there until it expires. Even if all thresholds are met, if you are in a state of no confidence, it is not going to be ratified unless you restore the state of the system by ratifying an update committee. Whatever number of CC member you like, yeah.
It's a very interesting case that didn't happen yet on Cardano, right? So we luckily still have confidence in our constitutional committee. So no one yet submitted this governance action. I'm not daring anyone, so please don't do that. I mean, you can. I'm not telling you not to. But another thing that is, I think, very important to understand, as Adam mentioned and also as Mike mentioned, it is possible for DREPs to always change their votes. So on a governance action that they voted, they can always switch from yes to no to abstain if there's new information.
Might be stupid because I'm new, but you said that the DREPs under the Constitution needs to vote for to check that it's constitutional. And sometimes the DREPs vote, but the Constitutional Committee haven't voted yet. Why isn't it set up the way that the Constitution committees need to vote first and then the DREPs can vote? Like I said, you had 2 epochs for the Constitution committees to make sure that this is constitutional or not.
No, actually this is all done in parallel. So
yeah, I know,
they all vote at the same
but
time.
why?
Why? Why is it like this?
Yeah. Why don't have the
simple answer is, I think, for expediency. Because depending on the action, one group might need to take more consideration than another. So one action might be constitutionally very simple, which means the Constitutional Committee would very quickly come to a decision, but very complicated from a philosophical standpoint of whether or not it's good for Cardano. So the DREPs would take a long time to decide. Other questions might be very popular, so DREPs will very quickly come to consensus, but very constitutionally complicated. So it might take the Constitutional Committee a long time. Or it might take the SPOs a long time to get around to voting, which always happens. Because a lot of them aren't actively participating in governance. So it's more, quite frankly, just more expedient to have it be in parallel for all governance actors.
And by design, technically you cannot make it pass if you don't meet all the thresholds. So you can, in a way, make them vote at the same time, as long as one doesn't necessarily influence the other, right?
Actually, I have a question. What you said, SPOs, they usually don't participate too much in governments, but also as an ADA holder, maybe I'm delegating to a DREP, I'm also staking to a stake pool operator. How do I know what's going on in the government's life cycle? Like, for example, okay, my DREP has voted yes or no. How do I know? Do I have to go and look at each action?
That is the question. If you want to know what's going on in governance, you have to keep yourself informed and go and check. And that actually is why we have enabled the auto abstain option for SPOs. Because many SPOs have said that they do not wish to participate in governance. They wish to always abstain their vote. And so if an SPO sets their reward pool to be an auto abstain DREP option, it means that their SPO vote will also be auto abstain for everything except for a hard fork governance action. So if any of you SPOs are out there, particularly any of you working for exchanges that for some regulatory reason don't take positions on governance matters, have not yet set your pools to auto abstain, please consider doing that. And if you need help, Cardano Foundation or Intersect will be happy to help you do that.
For the votes of the SPOs, the delegated data to the SPO, they are counted to the number of votes of the SPO.
Yeah, so they vote with the active voting stake that's delegated to them.
So if I'm now delegating, I have ADA in my wallet, I have delegated it, so I have basically 2 votes on my ADA, one for myself if I do it on my own, and the one through my SPO.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Exactly, and I mean that also speaks about the liquid democratic model that Cardano has, where, right, we said that, and I wanted to tell that, I know not perfect, where we have the DREPs who can always change the vote, the SPOs can change the vote, CC can change the vote, but you as an ADA holder also have the opportunity to always redelegate your ADA if you disagree with the choice that your DREP makes, right? So
Within the time, the life cycle of
exactly.
the governance action.
Exactly. That's why, right, the tooling is so important for governance, and that you, as an ADA holder, are informed about how does my DREP vote? Does he or does she or they even vote? Right. So this is also the beauty of the system, and that applies to stake pools too. So if you disagree with how your stake pool votes on, let's say, a hard fork governance action, or any other governance action they can vote on, you can redelegate as an ADA.
Sorry, one question: if the SPO does not vote, so he is abstaining from voting, then its ADA are not counted onto the.
Well, yes. If an SPO or a DREP, for that matter, do not cast a vote and they do not abstain, then the lack of a vote effectively counts as a no vote. Because the way this threshold works is you must positively pass the threshold. But if you abstain, it's removed from the active stake count. Yeah. And Mike, can you tell me if an SPO is set for auto abstain, because DREPs do not have the ability to set to auto abstain. You can, as an ADA holder, you can set to auto abstain and just not have a DREP. But a DREP cannot be auto abstain. They must actively abstain if they wish to abstain. But an SPO, if an SPO is set to auto abstain, can they still go and choose to cast a vote, and does it count, or would they have to go off of auto abstain to do that?
No, they can. They can absolutely. So the way this works, I don't want to get too technical, but by delegating the reward address, not the pledge wallet, but the reward wallet, or could be the same, but you guys know it, to auto abstain, then the system will see your stake pool as auto abstain. And I forgot the question.
But if you do decide to cast a vote, would it be counted?
Yes. So if you do actively vote on something, it will bypass it. So your vote will count.
So it's a way that SPOs could say, I am actively abstaining unless something comes up that I am significantly interested in or have significant technical experience in that I want to give my input into it.
Yeah, and for this feature, I really want to give a shout out to Martin, AT Pool. He recommended that feature to the Ledger team. I think, yeah, a round of applause for Martin. And it really helps a lot, especially with custodians and, as Adam also mentioned, exchanges who operate pools and who still want to be able to withdraw their staking rewards. So this is really a great feature. And I think there's more questions.
In the event that a submission is enacted, are there mechanisms in place to ensure that the humans in the loop follow what the community voted on? So not protocol changes such as like hard forks, but something more of like a pinch point or a mousetrap, like an access key to a building. Is there something to to include that?
So you mean how the community can?
I think I understand the question. Those kinds of things have to be built into our Constitution because our Constitution is kind of the interface between the human level and the machine level. And so, for instance, the Constitution says that any treasury withdrawal governance action, the funds must go to an administrator who will oversee the work of the recipient of the funds. And so they would perhaps have milestones and they would take legal action if the recipient does not carry out their work.
Yeah, that is the curiosity because it's governance, but it's not a government.
Right, exactly. And that's the kind of balance we're trying to strike here because Cardano is a digital commons, right? It's a protocol where we all work together, we put into the system, and we have this pool, the treasury, that we can all draw out of if we agree that it could go to a common purpose. But we do see the recognition that all of the individuals who will receive something from that common treasury will be in some physical jurisdiction. And so we want to work within the laws of that jurisdiction to take advantage of whatever benefits they have, but also avoid getting entangled in anything that would be, entangling, I guess we would say. So we want to sort of stay out of it as much as we can to not have any tripwires, but then when we do send money into those jurisdictions, take advantage of all the protections we can with their laws.
Last thing I promise. Do you see a platform being constructed in the future?
So Intersect MBO serves a lot of those functions. We serve as an administrator for most of the treasury. For most of the treasury withdrawals right now, we're serving as the administrator. And so we have a team that oversees the milestones, and we have a group of community auditors that can stop payment on any contracts that are not being fulfilled through a smart contract process.
So Mike said every ratified will get enacted, so that graphic is wrong?
No, the dropped, this means that if a motion of no confidence passes, the other ratified ones will be dropped unless it comes back into ratification.
But Mike said all ratified will always be enacted. So
The active
motion
one.
of no
Okay.
confidence
Yeah,
just
that's-
means that ratified might not be reached in time and the
You caught
chance
us.
to be expired. So there is no dropped state.
No, there is
Other
no.
than
This
expired,
is
yeah.
something I mentioned politely to Nicolas. And
We were trying to explain around the bad graphic.
beforehand. Yeah, as soon as this is technically.
We got caught.
It shouldn't be there.
Talk about throwing someone under the bus.
Oh, and technically, DREPs could auto-abstain if they don't vote for long enough.
That is, well, DREPs fall into a what is considered a state of inactivity, which is equivalent to auto-abstaining. But it is not really an auto-abstain. It is basically a recognition that they are not performing their function that they signed up to do.
Yeah, right now I think it is set to 20 epochs, so it's a protocol parameter. If your DREP doesn't vote on anything for 20 epochs, it automatically himself and all his voting power will be calculated as abstained by the system, unless he vote again, and then it resets the timer.
Yeah, and I think it's also if they update their metadata, that also counts as an activity.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, please go ahead.
The question was, who is the administrator who administrates funds? Is it a DAO or something else? And the Constitution is strategically ambiguous on this. The administrator could theoretically be a smart contract. The administrator could be an institution such as Intersect, which is currently doing most of the administrative work as of this year. The administrator could be a DAO. The administrator could be one dude who has a bank account in the Caymans. It's whatever the DREPs decide is an acceptable administrator. And I suppose the CC would also have to say if it fits within the spirit of the Constitution. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. And as you can see, there's a lot of, I don't want to say complexity, but the governance system is very nuanced, and also the Constitution, right, as Adam said, explicitly did not include any specific institutions to not sort of enshrine someone in there that potentially might not be around, right? Because we never know what's going to happen in the future. Good. And I think for the governance action lifecycle, yes, as was rightly pointed out, if something is ratified, it will get enacted. So that is just something to keep in mind. And then we talked about the governance action lifetime. This does not exist for the Constitutional Committee. So in case a Constitutional Committee member is just inactive and doesn't vote, as Adam and I think Mike mentioned it, if someone doesn't vote, their vote vote is counted like a no vote. And this applies also to the Constitutional Committee. And in case that happens, right, if a CC member is not able to meet their and do the work that they were voted in for, they would then be, I guess, removed via the update committee governance action. I think what's always important is that you understand that US ADA holders basically can decide how you want to participate, whether it's delegating to a DREP, whether it's even registering as one and participating, or you don't want to have anything to do with governance and delegate to auto-abstain. I hope you don't do that. So if you scan this QR code, it takes you to the beautiful governance page of Cardano.org, where you then can find further links on how to register as a DREP, how to participate. And we also have other great governance tools like GovTools, Tempo.vote, a voting tool from the Cardano Foundation, and a lot of other community-built governance tools. It's also important to give just context. We're now in governance, not even for a full year. We had the Chang hard fork last September, so yeah, that's more than a year. But what I mean is the actual fully implemented on-chain governance that is described in CRP 1694. That's available since February 2025. And since then, we've seen, I think, above or more than 60 governance actions.
74.
74.
Thought it was
more
like
than
80
60.
something. Okay, that's okay.
And at the moment, we have also 4 different governance actions that are live. So Cardano governance is working as intended. It will continue to work even if we face some difficult challenges. So if a Constitutional Committee member resigns, governance doesn't stop working, right? So you can still have these other governance action types that are required. And this is really the beautiful thing about Cardano's governance model, that doesn't matter if there is a huge, let's say, fight on social media or we completely disagree, the model keeps on working.
Yeah, I think that it's a really great system in the way that it has such impressive game theory for encouraging participation and finding the separation of powers. I think that blockchain is special in the way that it encourages collaboration through self-interest, and when you have a large public ledger that when everybody contributes to it, everybody gets better. It just sort of you see how people react to that, and you see how people are willing to build each other up. And I think that our governance system is built in the same way. You see DREPs. I see when I go on social media, I see DREPs actively promoting other DREPs and saying this person did a good job, and then that's potentially exposing people who could be delegating to them and giving them more power are instead seeing this other person. So. But it's because they know that the more robust the system is, the better off everyone is. So I love the game theory, and I love the collaborative nature of it.
Yeah, I would say participate. Honestly, in my dream world, everyone is a D-rep, but I know this is not something that can possibly happen. This is a fun system. I mean, try it. If you ever need information, again, you can scan the QR code, and it's very, very interesting topic. Just try it out.
Yeah, and Mike is also, he doesn't like to do self-promotion, so I'll do it for him. He's also hosting great workshops, I think every Thursday.
Every Tuesday and every Thursday, I cover the 3 time zones. So I cover the American one, the EU, and also part of Africa, which is like more the Western part. So yeah, I give workshop. I also do private support.
And before you all go, I want you to come up here on stage because you can collect a commemorative NFT for the governance sessions. And that NFT will also in the future give you some other benefits, potentially like discounts. And we worked on that with the community team of the Cardano Foundation. So before you go, make sure to claim that. It's only available today. You just need a Vespa wallet or your Begin wallet. And then you can get your governance NFT. Thank you, everyone.